Hi, my name is Rubidium. Welcome to the first Intellytech Breakdown. In this series of videos, we're going to recreate famous scenes by famous directors to see what exactly goes into shooting these, how they're lit, and how you can use Intellytech lights to recreate them. With an inflation-adjusted gross of $10.2 billion, 5 Academy Awards, and pretty much every other honor Hollywood has bestowed, Steven Spielberg sits atop the Hollywood popular pantheon as the most successful film director of all time. So what makes his movies so popular, so watchable, so enjoyable? He has a wide array of visual signatures, none more popular and imitated than the One-er. Taken from his heroes like Alfred Hitchcock and Orson Welles, the One-er is one long continuous shot that integrates a variety of different shot sizes into one moving master. The one we're looking at today is from Minority Report from 2003. Most filmmakers looking at this scene would break it down into individual chunks. A wide shot establishing the location, a tracking shot of Tom Cruise entering the elevator, a close-up of Tom pushing the button, a mid-shot of Colin approaching the elevator, an over-the-shoulder of Tom's reaction to Colin's first line, 2-shot of them talking, a counter move to capture the action of him slamming against the elevator wall, a close-up of the dialogue, an extreme close-up insert of the thumb drive, a reaction shot of Colin hearing the siren, and then a pulling back dolly shot of Tom backing out of the elevator. Shooting these one at a time would allow you to get each shot the way you want it by adjusting the lighting, adjusting the performance, and then you edit all these selected moments together to create your scene. In short, shooting piecemeal like this gives you a lot more control. Spielberg, as he often does, decided to link all these shots together in one moving master Steadicam. The result is a little less controlled and more frantic, but you can't look away. It's a perfect mirror of Tom Cruise's character, John, mental state as he discovers that he's the target of the Minority Report. If the whole film was one take, it would just be a moment among others. But because the rest of the film is cut and shot traditionally, this One-er really engages you, makes you unable to look away. Tom Cruise's character's life is spinning out of control and you're right there with him. We set out to recreate this shot and this is what we found. We shot on the Cannon C200 in raw light in 4K, mounted on the Ronin 2. To take weight off the operator, we used the Ready Rig, which is a backpack system with carbon fiber arms, which redistributes the weight of the camera and the gimbal to your hips and shoulders rather than your arms. Our amazing DP, Tom Antos, really brought the shot to life and we couldn't have done it without him. He has a video on his channel about the challenges and what he learned from this shoot as well, so make sure you check that out. We went with the Ronin rather than the Steadicam, which was what the Minority Report shot on. Steven Spielberg almost certainly had money to build this as a set, whereas we were shooting on an existing soundstage. We needed to get the camera back maybe a little further, and the gimbal gave us a little more space. The gimbal also wasn't available back in 2003 when the Minority Report was shot, and you can see in a couple of moments in the Minority Report shot that they lose their horizon, meaning that the camera starts to skew, and the gimbal's a lot easier to deal with in this aspect. The first thing we found out is that no one would let us shoot in their elevator. If we shot the scene in parts, we could have got a quick cutaway of the Tom Cruise character entering the elevator and leaving the elevator, and then we could have shot the scene somewhere else. But because this was a One-er and because the scene needed to take place in its entirety in one shot, we needed to basically tie up an elevator for an hour or so. No one that I could find would let us do this, but we did find a soundstage in South LA that has an elevator set. This meant we were able to light it, to rig it, the doors opened by pulleys, so we were able to use the elevator as our set without having to deal with an elevator that actually goes up and down. The stage had a prop elevator whose doors opened by a pulley, so we just relocated our video village to where the pulley was, which happened to be around the corner, and our focus puller pulled focus from that monitor, and our producer James was able to watch the feed from the camera that was being sent remotely and open and close the doors at the right time. This only became a problem right at the end because after 13 takes of Tom slamming Colin onto the wall, it actually moved the whole set backwards by about 5 inches, and it meant the elevator doors weren't aligned enough and they kept stopping. It took us a couple of minutes to work out what was happening and why, but when we did, we just pushed the room back where it belonged and the doors worked again. I was really grateful that we found this space because it would have been really hard to coordinate a working elevator with the doors opening and closing at the right time at the right speed. Our next challenge was lighting. When you're shooting in individual takes and individual shots, you're able to light just where the actor is going to be in that take. But because we were shooting continuously, we needed a long throw of light that would pretty much light the actor continuously as he walked from the back of the hospital set into the elevator and back out again. To get the hard light that separates the actor from the background, we used Intellytech's new Light Cannon Pro. This is a super high output Fresnel, which was great because we needed to mount it about 50 feet back from the actor so that it wasn't in our shot. We were able to plug it straight into the wall and it came up to max brightness almost immediately. There was no need to wait for it like you do with a tungsten bulb or HDMI. We're also able to dim it, and we had it on about 40% power, and that gave us plenty of exposure. For the actor's key as he's walking, we rigged an Intellytech LC-120 high up on a C-stand with diffusion, which gave a really nice fill and kept our levels consistent as he walked through the hospital. We actually added a second LC-120 on the opposite side, but it actually flattened the actor out too much and it kind of looked dead. So we scratched that and just went with a more high contrasty look, similar to what happens in the Minority Report. In form factor, these are similar to the LiteMat 2Ls. In fact, we did a video comparing the LiteMat 2L to the Intellytech LiteCloth LC-120. You can check it out in the link below. We kept the house lights on, which were daylight balanced LED tubes, because we wanted a little bit of fill and also because you're going to see them in the shot. So having bulbs that weren't working kind of made it look like a ghost hospital. It was already pretty creepy to be in a hospital set that was totally unoccupied with just brick walls behind every door. So keeping the house lights on just gave us a better level. For the real meat of this scene, inside the elevator where 90% of the shot takes place, we used two Intellytech LC-160s rigged to the F2 LC frame. This is a collapsible pipe-based frame that you can hang on a C-stand and takes both of the 4-panel LC-160s and doubles the size. We didn't need to use the skirt or the diffusion because the light being that size was soft enough, and because the elevator had a dark wood finish similar to the one in the Minority Report, we didn't really need to knock down the level on the wall to separate them. The actors were different enough in tone from the elevator walls that happened anyway. Now, we shot at ISO 800 with the lens at f5.6, and the LC-160s were only at 14% power. So we could have really made this much, much brighter than we did. But this was our proper exposure, so this is where we left it. The advantage of using big, soft sources is you don't really need to do a lot to them. They already look cinematic. We mounted the F2 LC to a C-stand arm. The walls of the set were actually the exact height of a C-stand extended all the way up. We used an extension arm to get over the wall, then the arm of the C-stand to go back down again to get our lights closer to the subject. There actually was a whole bunch of things we could have rigged to in the ceiling of the set, but I wanted to keep it simple and make sure that I knew that my light wasn't going to fall on the actors. So once we were rigged and lit, we went for a take. I actually walked behind Tom to spot him and to stop the arms of the ready rig scratching the inside of the elevator. The added advantage was that I could whisper to him and kind of move him around to get the shot that I wanted without having to work on a comm system or earpieces. I was right there. I could see what he was shooting and I could give him feedback in real time. When you're going backwards with a Steadicam or a gimbal, you definitely need someone to spot you, especially in the speed that the shot happens. He's actually matching the speed of Tom Cruise's character walking forward while walking backwards, and I'm there just to make sure he doesn't trip. I'm really glad we had Tom Antos on this. I certainly wouldn't have been able to do as good a job operating the gimbal and the camera. Much more than the Steadicam, you can pick up a gimbal, get it balanced, and get a usable result. It does take quite a bit of experience to do the complicated moves and track with an actor and hit all the individual marks that we needed to hit in the time that we had. So thank you, Tom. Unlike regular coverage, one-ers are a lot less forgiving. Usually if some small thing goes wrong at the start of the take, I'll let the take run out because maybe the actors do something interesting that I use at the end. With the one-er, as soon as there's some small little mistime or something looks a little odd, you kind of have to cut because you're not going to be able to use that take. One-ers are a lot more demanding on the performance of the actors because they have to hit all their marks and say all their lines exactly as it's going to appear in the final film. We had some really great actors in Frank and Travis. They really rose to the occasion. I find that with professional actors, they would rather do the take in one long continuous go rather than have it cut up into small pieces. It just gives them more momentum with their performance, and they both rose to the occasion. So for the 52 seconds of camera time, this took us about 3 hours to shoot. It took us an hour to light and rig the camera. It took us an hour to get our 13 takes, the second last one, which is the one I'm showing you guys. And it took us about an hour to break everything down, get it back in the cars and wrap out. We actually did do a version of this with the EOS R on the Ronin S gimbal. It was much quicker. I don't think that the video quality, the 8-bit of the EOS R can compare to the 12-bit raw light of the C200, but it was an interesting experiment. And if I had very little time to shoot something, this is the way I'd do it. It was super useful to have the Intellytech LEDs here. We didn't have to deal with the heat of tungsten. We didn't have to deal with the delicacy or the long startup time of HMIs. They're so much faster to rig. They're so much lighter. They don't need all the hardware. They don't need wall spreaders and a ton of grip equipment. They're soft as they come out of the box. They're dimmable. They're really high CRI, so they look great on camera. We shot the entire scene with the Light Cannon Pro and the lights in these cases. They all fit in the trunk of my Civic. We didn't need a grip truck. We didn't need 10 people to rig them. We actually only had a crew of 4. I don't know how many people were on the set of the Minority Report 17 years ago, and I don't know how big their setup was, but IMDb lists 142 people in their camera department for their film. So I imagine that they spent a lot more money and took a lot longer to do the same scene that we did in 3 hours with 4 people. Armando on Mondo Bytes actually shot all the behind the scenes footage for us. He has a breakdown of this project on his channel as well. Please check out the links in the description. And he'll give more insight into exactly how we did it and why.
You're in a lot of trouble, John.
You set me up.
I'll write the paranoia off to that whiff that you've been doping on all night!
Easy.
Seems I found a flaw.
What are you gonna do?
Possession alone will get you 6 months. Not to mention your badge. I guess we won't be working together after all. Put the gun down, John. I don't hear a red ball.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you got something from this breakdown. I got a ton from setting myself the challenge of recreating this scene and then trying to get something as close as possible to the original. Our plan is to do a bunch of these signature shots from famous movies of famous directors. We're going to look at Michael Mann, David Lynch, David Fincher, John Woo, Wong Kar-wai, and Aaron Sorkin. Okay, Aaron Sorkin is not a director, he's a writer, but he has a signature style of the walk and talk from the West Wing movies and others, so we're going to look at that and see what goes into it. Please subscribe to the channel if you're interested in seeing more of these. Leave your questions in the comments below. You can also see details of what products we use and where to get them. But until next time, keep creating.